I cast Vtuber.
Yeah. I mean, I guess now we can talk about the mirror story. This is appropriate to question 39. We can talk about the mirror story. Um okay. So, if there's anyone gonna clip this, please do so I don't have to keep explaining this story. Okay. So, I was 19 years old, I think, at the time. And I was on a second date with this girl who was a bit older than me and obviously a bit more experienced with the world of romance. And I was 19 years old and very fresh-faced and young and a bit naive and a bit dumb and a bit silly when it came to romance and picking up signals, let's say. So we go to the cinema and we see a film, and it's like a cold night actually. It's a cold night, and after we get out of the cinema, she's like, "Oh, I'm cold," and I'm like, "Oh, okay," and I take off my hoodie and I give her my hoodie, right? Because she was cold, or my coat. Or, I can't remember what it was. Was it coat or hoodie? Doesn't matter. I give her something to keep her warm, and she is very appreciative of that fact, right? And she's like, hey, she's, she likes me enough to date, and she seems to be into me. So she's like, hey, do you want to come back to my place, and we'll have some, like, for a cup of tea? And I'm like, sure, that sounds nice. I would love to have a cup of tea with you. And, keep talking, because I enjoyed her company. And so, for the record, we had kissed at that point. We had kissed after the first date. So, it wasn't like there had been no signals between us, right? It was a scenario in which physicality had occurred. It wasn't like I was just completely not picking up anything that was being put down, so to speak. Kissing before marriage. I apologize. Unicorns, listen. Don't listen, I should say. Sorry, unicorns. Not fucking on the first date? No, I don't think I've ever fucked on the first date. Where was I going? Oh yes, the mirror story. Right. So we go back to her place, and I meet her cat for the first time, and her cat was very cute, and I was playing with her cat for a bit. And we were just kind of, like, socializing, and she gets some tea out, and she's like, which sort of tea do you want? And she doesn't have the type of tea that I like. And I will 100% admit, I'm a very, very picky drinker when it comes to tea. I like one type of tea, really, and that's Dilma Extra Strength, and it's the tea that I've always liked, and I probably will only really like this type of tea. And I'm drinking it literally right now. So shoutouts to Dilma Extra Strength. Thank you for fueling my entire life. But yes, so we get to her, we're at her place, and she's like, what sort of tea do you want? And I'm like, I don't really like any of these teas that you've got. It's like herbal teas, and I've never really liked herbal teas before. And so I think we settle for some sort of herbal tea. I can't remember the specific type, but I didn't like it. But I didn't want to be seen as rude, so I'm very, very slowly drinking it, and I'm nursing it. Because, it's rude to be like, oh, I don't want to be rude and be like, oh, sorry, I don't actually like any of these teas. I don't want any tea. You want to be polite. Good luck with editing this, yes. Was it peppermint? Maybe, I can't remember. It's not important. The specific detail about the tea isn't important. It's just that I don't like the flavor of the tea. But I don't want to be seen as rude, so I'm slowly sipping this tea that I don't like. Because I was always told, when I was younger, because I have Irish heritage, you always finish a cup of tea that you are offered. Because it's rude, otherwise, to not finish it. And that is very important to the rest of the story. So we're just chatting in her kitchen, at, like, her table. in the kitchen. We're just chatting and having a nice conversation and just, you know, getting to know each other a bit better. And I think at this point I was probably missing a few of her flirtations, let's say, some of the signals that she was putting out there about, you know, her intentions for how the rest of the night would go. And so I guess I was missing the whole, hey, can we maybe take this upstairs sort of actions that she may have been doing, where she was being a bit, you know, touchy-feely and, you know, trying to, you know, I was just happy to keep talking about stuff. I wasn't, you know, I didn't want to, you know, do anything else. I was just happy talking. Clio the dumb teen, pretty much. I was 19 and not... I'm very dense, let's be honest. I was very, very dense. So I wasn't really picking up what she was implying in regards to, hey, let's maybe go upstairs. So I think she realizes that she needs to maybe trick me into going upstairs. Because I'm fucking stupid and I'm not, you know, I can't tell that she wants to stop drinking the cup of tea. But I didn't want to be seen as rude. I didn't want to be rude and, you know, not finish the tea undrunk. So I was very slowly sipping the tea and keeping the conversation going so I could keep drinking the tea that I didn't like. But, you know, I didn't want to be rude about the cup of tea not being drunk. So she eventually, I think, comes up with this thing. This basically, she's just like, hey, you're pretty big and strong. Because, you know, this was back when I was very fit and quite muscular. And, you know, I'm slightly above average in terms of height. I'm 5'6". She would have been, I don't know, maybe 5 foot. You know. And so, you know, I was still in my very athletic phase. So she was like, oh, could you help me for a sec, actually? And she points over at this mirror that is leaning against the wall. And she's like, could you carry this mirror up to my room, please? And I was like, yeah, sure. That's no problem. So we get up and she's like, here's the mirror. And I'm like, okay, pick it up. And she leads me up to her bedroom and I'm carrying this mirror. And I carry the mirror up to her room, and when I get up there, she's sitting on the bed, and I'm holding the mirror, and I'm like, where do you want the mirror? And she's like, oh, just put it anywhere. And so I put it down against the wall because I don't want to be, I'm being very gentle and not trying to, you know, break anything. And then she, like, gestures to pat on the bed. She pats on the bed next to her, and she's like, hey, do you want to sit down next to me? You know, because she's obviously trying to make something happen. And my dumbass, my very, very stupid young Irish, naive Catholic upbringing, is thinking, but the tea isn't finished. I haven't finished drinking the tea that you gave me, and I don't want to be rude and leave the tea undrunk. So I turn around and I go back downstairs and I go back to the kitchen because I'm like, oh, I haven't finished the tea. I'm sorry. So I go downstairs and I drink the tea. And I have no idea what she's thinking at this point. She's probably face palming very, very hard at this point. So I go back downstairs and she doesn't immediately follow me. And I'm like, oh, that's weird, but I guess I'll just keep sipping the tea. Keep drinking the tea that I fucking hate because it tastes like ass, but I didn't want to be rude, so I kept drinking it. And so she comes down the stairs. Except she comes down the stairs in her lingerie. And my very dense ass doesn't pick up on this as like a flirty move. I'm like, oh, I guess she wants to go to bed soon. I guess she was tired, so she got comfortable in her very sexy lingerie. Um, by the way, I'm just fully dressed. I'm just fully dressed. I'm like, oh, you look really nice. And then we just go back to talking at the table in the kitchen and drinking the tea. Um, and then I think by this point, I think my last bus or train home was due. So I was like, oh, I have to go now. And she's in her lingerie. And so I didn't finish the tea for what it's worth. I didn't ever actually finish the cup of tea. And so we get into her car. And we had been chatting, for maybe like 4-ish hours at that point, including the interruption for the mirror part of the mirror story. And so I never actually end up finishing the cup of tea. Also, because it's been like 4 hours, the tea is stone cold. And so that doesn't help with the taste at all. And so we go to like the car park near the bus stop. I think it was a bus at the time. And then she turns to me and I'm like, oh, thank you for the lift. And she turns to me and she's like, you're really dense, aren't you? And then she pounced me. She pounced me at that point. And then I didn't go home. There you go. That's the end of the story. So that it does have a happy ending. There you go. But that's the mirror story.